Today is October 12th, and I want to talk a little bit about uh, phalloplasty and things that I think about and how I process stuff regarding phalloplasty. So I'll go right into it because then you'll know what I mean by saying all that. So I talked about having the surgery and how the nurses responded to my scar. And I talked about it in a group where there's a couple other guys that have the RFF scar. So uh, it's a process where we have come to the conclusion that it doesn't affect us emotionally, or we don't carry the immediate feelings we get from the questions about the scar. Now, there's a couple guys who reacted really different than I did. Um, and again, that goes with maturity, I think, and experience, reeling in your anger, getting mad over little things that isn't worth your time, that kind of things. So it looks like it's actually why I say that is because the older guys and me, we kind of just lay back and say, it is what it is. You think things in your mind, but what can you do? I mean, you get mad at people and they're so innocent. They don't know what a RFF means. Some people don't even know what transgender means still, even though it's publicized all over the place in derogatory ways and positive ways with Laverne Cox and Chaz Bono and stuff like that on TV. Uh, but the one thing you have to consider, a lot of guys think that going for the leg, I forgot the initials of it, alt, um, is a lot better because you can hide it and da da da. And that is true. But you have to remember, if you've got a little bit of weight on you, even if you're 5 to 10% body fat, and you tend to carry it in your thighs or your hips or whatever, that your phallus is going to be a lot thicker around in girth. And even though you may think that's okay, um, some guys have been discouraged about the girth after they've already had the surgery and stuff because it's just too much. And then they go in and say, can people liposuction it? Da, 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 da. Really think this through because it is a permanent fixture on your body. The scars tell a story. Every scar you have, whether it be your chest surgery or, bottom surgery, any kind of scar you have has a story behind it. And how people respond to those stories is what you initially have to be slow to react to. There are so many people who are ignorant, but not in a derogatory way, just in a way that they have never ever experienced a transgender person. They may have heard things on TV, whether they listen to Fox News or whether they listen to CNN or their local channels or the channel that had the I forgot their name, that 19 and Counting show where she got on about bathrooms and stuff, used her celebrity status for that. It doesn't matter. There are thousands of people who don't have access to that kind of stuff. And so you may get some reactions, but where you feel defensive. But unless they come at you and call you names or start preaching at you, just take a deep breath. Take a deep breath and say, okay, I want the arm because it gives me this, this, and this. Although I don't like the scar you're saying this to yourself, on my arm. But the leg gives it this, or this, or you're not a candidate at all. Because when I went into Dr. Crane's office for the consultation, I was really going back and forth a lot, even on Metoid, because of the intensity of this long surgery. And I understand now they do things a little bit different. They've broken it down into stages when you go to Dr. Chen. I'm not sure if Dr. Crane still does it all in one in Texas, and I haven't searched it. But regardless of how they do it, it's a process that is going to take a lot from you emotionally, mentally, and physically. You may be all gung-ho and excited, and everybody is. I was. But I still understood that I need to allow my body to really heal, to not get frustrated or really upset at things that are not happening, or things I think that should be different, as far as, let's say, nurse care. Now, the nurses are really good, but again, they are busy. So when you need water, it doesn't happen just like that. You've got to catch them when they're in your room and ahead of time. That alleviates the anger and frustration. You got a catheter hooked up if you go the route I did. So you don't have to worry about getting out of bed and peeing. They don't want you to move. They don't want you to do a lot of shifting, anything. And for 7 days or 5 days, whatever it was, it can be a little annoying. But the thing is, guys, when you're searching all the channels and you're hearing everybody's perspective on it or experience, you're going to hear either their anger and frustration because things didn't happen like they thought they would, or you're going to hear things like I've talked about, how things happened good for me, but that was my expectation. That was my vision. That's where I prepared my body starting a year prior to surgery. I just knew I needed to change the way my body healed, the way I knew I needed to feed it nutritional stuff. I couldn't live on McDonald's, Jack in the Box, Carl's Jr.'s, the taco trucks. I couldn't live on that and know that I done everything I can prior to surgery for a um, a good healing and a fast healing. So if you look back on my videos and you see where I go through the first stages before phalloplasty and after, you will notice a common story there. And my common story is prepare yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually, even emotionally. Now, going back to the scar, understand that people just look at it as like you've been burned. I blew it on my first try of trying to lie about it, and I just dug a hole deeper, and the guy just kind of looked at me, and I just kind of changed the subject. So I quit doing that. I just say it's a donor site. I donated some skin, and if they get more into it, I just say, well, it's kind of personal, and let it go. Now, in the medical staff, I let them know because they need to know that about me. But yeah, so here's some things 3 years and a couple months post-op. With the erection device, the semi-rigid rod, understand that gravity pulls. And the rod is heavy, so my skin has separated from the base, or has loosened, I guess. I don't know how it's happened, but the skin is dropped from the base of my penis. So I'm going to be looking into seeing if Dr. Chen can lift it in any way, have him access where I am currently with everything. When I sleep in loose cotton boxers because it can just hang. Well, it hangs clear down to the middle of my leg. I am not. I'm probably 5.5 inches long. So it should not be hanging that far down. That's the best picture I can give you. But as far as girth, it's still a great girth. It's 5 inches girth. And the rod still will do. Now, here's the thing with the rod. The tip of it does look like it can go through the tip of your penis, but it doesn't. I've asked Dr. Chen about that. That was my first concern. He said, no, you've got a lot of skin and stuff in between there. It's not going to pop through. The phallus works just like if any of you have watched a guy masturbating and how the skin, his dick doesn't move, but the skin does, and that's how he massages the muscle, and that's how he gets things going. It's the same way the skin moves up and down the semi-rigid rod. So the rigid rod is always in place. It's your skin and your girth, or your skin and the substance in your dick that moves up and down alongside of the rod. And that's what causes it to hit your clitoris and rub against your clitoris, and that's where you'll get your orgasm out of. That is the best way I can describe what I've experienced. I have felt around and felt the scrotum sac and noticed that there is some sensation still down in the well, I don't know. I can't say it's the vagectomy because your clitoris runs down that way too. So when I was feeling it, I could feel I could feel it rubbing against going into my, I call it junior that's buried. So we'll just leave it at that because I don't like to mention the female. So, yeah. So you just have to just kind of feel around, and it's going to be just like if you were a little boy and you got that thing hanging around and you just kind of play with it, feel it. Again, I've heard of guys that have tactical and sensation in their dicks, and I still only have, I cannot feel anything unless it's around the nerve that goes down the top of my penis. I say dick, penis, whatever. That's the only way I can describe it. But for the most part, I think what you deal with is just being out in public with your scar. I don't think about it half the time. People might look at it and don't say anything, just like I would if I saw somebody. I'd probably think, oh, that poor guy, thinking he had an accident or something. And really, they don't ask anything when we get on, if I'm talking to someone and we get on the subject of my workers' comp injury. A lot of guys inquire about the spinal cord stimulator, and then it goes into scar. I don't know. They look at my scar and it goes into something like that. And then sometimes they just don't say anything, thinking it's part of my workers' comp injury. So, yeah, I think the main key to think about, the main point, is to understand you cannot compare yourself to a biological male. And that doesn't just mean in the genitals, but it means overall. Even young men who are transitioning at a younger age. Now you get down into school age, and the elementary, and their parents are really good. Oh, excuse me, at supporting their child. Then they become socialized, and but they're still going to miss out when it comes to puberty and not experiencing that same thing, if you know what I mean. until they're old enough to get the surgery or whatever they decide to do. They will experience their own sexuality in their own way. But for you guys who have not started transitioning as a child and you've done it as an adult, just understand you get excited, but the male that starts creating within yourself on physically is going to be the male who you're going to be physically. But the inside male is what's going to guide and direct the outside male. So you've really got to, I'm not asking you to be perfect and never be upset at people, but ask yourself when you do get upset, is it worth the back talk? Is it worth responding to? Or do you just let it go and say, you've got your opinions, I respect that, but I have mine? Or you can say, maybe you should educate yourself before you talk to a transgender person. Whatever comes, but put it back in their court, let it bounce off you in some way, and work on that. Work on it in front of the mirror. It's easier said than done. I get that. Believe me. I shake my head to a lot of things too sometimes, and I just think, wow. And it's come out that sometimes you think people support you and your family, and they just support you because you are family. But it doesn't say really what they think and feel. And so I have family members like that. Uh, they don't ignore me. They don't reject me, but they don't understand it. They're ignorant, and they don't choose to look into it anymore because I have given educational via Facebook, via email, points about transgender. And so no matter what you do, sometimes there are going to be people in your life that just won't try to get it. And that's okay. It's sad for them. And look at it like that. Because I'll tell you honestly, there are still some things that go on in life today that I look at. But I've learned because of my own experience to let it go. Or if it bothers me enough to look into it. But just kind of reel in yourself. Choose your battles. Don't let something get you down of what somebody else said. And if they don't want to listen, or you've tried to correct them with facts or your experiences, let it go, because you're not going to get through to them anyway. And just think about how sad that is for that person. I really think about the people who are discriminating towards people of the LGBTQ community, of not servicing them in their businesses and stuff. I think, really, how sad. And you say it's because of religious freedom? That doesn't really correlate to what I've been taught about Jesus and his love and his unconditional love. So just remember that. All right, guys. Phalloplasty is a big thing. A lot of people go for matoid, and then later they end up in phalloplasty. But there's a lot of people who do matoid are very satisfied, especially if you've got the growth. If I would have had the growth, I probably would have went matoid. But I didn't. And that's in my past videos. So anyway, guys, take it one day at a time, and always make your journey as simple as possible. We'll talk to you later. Bye.